Hello, welcome back to Literary Gladiators. My name is Maddie. I'm Madi Laster here on YouTube, and I'm back here with another rapid fire review video. So, in my last, video that wasn't a roundtable read, I did a rapid fire review where I had a minute to describe a couple different books that I read within the last month or two. So I'm back here again with 5 books. There is a little bit of a theme. November is my anniversary month, and it just so happens that every book that I'm about to talk to you about is either from the point of view of a gay woman or a story about 2 gay women. So, yay! Alright, we're gonna get started. I made notes so that hopefully I can keep it concise and tell you everything that I need to in a minute. We're gonna struggle through this together, okay? But I have 2 of the books physically here with me. The other books I either read on Libby, ebook style, or listened to audiobooks. So, yeah, ready? Without further ado, let us get started. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Permafrost by Eva Baltasar, and it's translated by Julia Sanchez from the Catalan. Which I just have to say, I think that I found a new favorite author. I really enjoyed this. Spoiler alert, I guess. Alright, ready? I'm going to start the timer. We've got a minute on the clock. Okay, go. So this book was inspired by a prompt that Eva got from one of her therapists to start writing about her life. She started writing about her life and then got bored and started adding fiction to it. So a full disclosure, the main character is very suicidal, so there's a lot of talk about suicide in this and self-harm. So, trigger warning, full disclosure, you guys know now. There are little peeks into moments of her adolescence, her relationship with her mom and her sister. There's brief encounters with lovers, and overall this exploration of life and then death also, because the author very much wants to die. So, it was very poetic and lyric. Oh no. Maybe I should have done a minute 30. It was very poetic and lyrical. Eva actually has 10 different books of poetry published, so it's very evident in this novel that she is a poet. Like, a lot of the imagery and then also the metaphors, they're very poetic, and yeah, they're beautifully written. I really do like it. Thinking about how much work it was to be translated, because in the end there's a little afterword by the translator. She was talking about how certain phrases in the Catalan were very rhythmic and had a nice flow to it, the actual sounding of the words. So when she's translating it into English and the imagery was a little weird, and the editor was like, what is this, she had to kind of play around in that way, and move forward with it in a way that you wouldn't think most authors would have to think about, how do I make this sound good? Because in a native language it sounds lyrical and beautiful, but in English it's kind of butchered. So that's an interesting little tidbit that I never really thought about in terms of translated work, how much liberty the translator gets with trying to put the book together in a way that really does the original translation justice. So that was the first one. 3 minutes, so didn't do a good job of doing 1 minute. Anyways, and I even forgot a bullet point. Okay, it's alright. We're gonna move on to the second book, which is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which this book was just so much fun, first off, but let's continue on my 1 minute quest. Ready? Alright, so this was an adult's children book for me. It follows Viv, who is an orc, as she quits her fantastical bounty hunting life and settles down to open a coffee shop, which she hires Tandri here to help her, It's kind of a little bit of a love story, but it's mostly about finding your people and friendship and coffee. There's a lot of beautiful, vivid imagery about coffee shops, like the actual coffee itself, because in this world, coffee is not really a thing that anyone knows about except like Viv is taking it from one spot and bringing it to this new town. I enjoyed the fantasy elements of it, but I did think that they were kind of put in the background if you didn't know too much about like what a succubus is or what an orc is, because Tandria is a succubus. So if you didn't know exactly what some of these fantastical elements were, it might be a little confusing, but it's written well enough that you could just forget about the fantasy aspects of it and just like, or I heard someone describe it as a cozy fantasy. So it's really cozy vibes. So you can just like fall into that coziness and forget about the fantasy. You don't even really, it's not pertinent to the story per se, So yeah, that was that one. It's just fun read. Okay. Next up, I don't have the physical copy, so I'm going to do a little picture here, is Yerba Buena by LaCour. I need to start the timer. Ready, set, go. It's a story about Sarah and Emily and their lives and how they come to meet and fall in love and be together. I felt like Sarah's story was a lot more dramatic and enthralling, whereas Emily's story was like maybe a little more lackluster compared to Sarah's. It's a story about them kind of having to come to terms with their own issues, their own baggage to be together, and there's like a lot of stop and starts, so it does go through time very quickly. It did kind of feel a little rushed at the end, the love story, where it was like so much backstory between both women and their brief meeting, and then they stopped, and then they got together again, and then they stopped, and then like all of a sudden at the end they're like, yes. Oh, look at that. I feel like that's pretty much all I had to say about it. It was very entertaining. It was a good read, but little issues with it here and there. But moving on, that was probably the quickest review I had this whole time. So up next we have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I'm gonna start the timer. So it's a story about a married couple. One of the wives, Leah, goes on an expedition in a submarine to do some research. She's supposed to be gone for like 3 weeks or so, but ends up being missing for like 6 months. The wife that stays home and is living her life, Miri, has to deal not only with that loss, but then Leah comes back and she's very different from what she was when she left, and kind of starts disintegrating. Her personality and who she was before she went on this expedition kind of just disappears in a way, melts away. So Miri has to go through this loss, the grief, what it means to love someone and have them back, but then ultimately have to let them go because they're not the same anymore. It was very heartbreaking and a very sad story. It was a little frustrating for me because Julia Armfield really pumps up the mystery, or hypes up the mystery of what happened to Julia. Really hypes up the mystery of what happened to Leah on the floor of the ocean, but then the mystery itself, like, it was just a little not as satisfying, like not knowing what exactly happened, So I did listen to this as an audiobook, so I feel like if I read it, maybe I would feel differently. Maybe there's some like, there are different experiences listening to a book versus actually reading it, so maybe I'd feel differently. It was good overall, I liked it, but a little disappointing for how hyped up it was supposed to be. So we're on our last book here, guys. It's Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu. Probably didn't say it right, but so let me start the timer. This is a vampire story that predates Dracula by like 26 years. There is very overt gay, like sexual tension and love going on, which for its time, like I feel like that's kind of unheard of. So there is the main character, Leah, she was just living with her dad in the Austrian countryside. All of a sudden, bam, a carriage crashes upon their doorstep, and out comes this young lady, Carmilla, who stays with them while the mom just like runs off and does something. Come to find out, Carmilla is actually a vampire, but we don't find that out till later. Anyways, Leah starts having like weird dreams, and like there's weird, strange happenings, and she starts getting sicker and sicker, like losing her strength. All throughout, they like have this weird tension, like sexual tension, and kind of like a romance going on. So it seemed like a short and sweet story. It's kind of told from the point of view of Laura telling someone the story after the fact. So yeah, it was, for how old it is, it's not so, the language isn't like convoluted, hard to understand, because you know sometimes the like old English is like a little confusing. But yeah, that's that for the 5 books. I hope you liked the rapid fire reviews. I think that it's kind of fun to do them because the important stuff gets out and you don't have time to just sit and like think of other things to say, where you know you get the gist of what I felt like with each book. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and thank you Literary Gladiators for having me again, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.